We have lots to discuss here in today's video. We have Alex Ovechkin chasing history tonight. He's only 3 away from the all-time goal record. Will he break it? We'll update you on how things are going on that front. Plus, we have some off-season trade speculation around a few teams here. We're taking a look at the New York Islanders, the Seattle Kraken. Are they going to be rebuilding, retooling? Which players may be moved? Plus, we're going to take a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and some interesting updates here from dailyfaceoff.com. Obviously, they have some key players that need new contracts between Marner, Tavares, and Knies. Can they keep them all? Can they all sign them for big money? We'll take a look at what makes sense and what might have to happen to make that happen. Plus, lots of other injury updates, some more signings around the NHL, and a few other updates as well, including the wild card race in both the East and Western Conference. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. Let's first get started with Alexander Ovechkin chasing history. Of course, 3 away entering this evening's action to break the all-time goal record held by Wayne Gretzky. He did score early in the first period against the Chicago Blackhawks, so he now needs 2, 1 to tie and 1 to break it. As I'm recording this video, that game is in the second intermission. There's 1 period to go. If for any reason or whenever it does happen, if it's tonight or the next game or what have you, I will do another separate video discussing Ovi's career and his chase to this all-time record, because that deserves a little bit more time on its own when it happens. But for right now, he's within 2. The magic number is, and like I said, there's still a third period to go. Blackhawks are leading the Capitals 3-2 so far. I said earlier, wouldn't it be epic if Ovechkin tied the record in the third period and maybe get like an overtime winner or something to break it? That would be a crazy way to do it. I know for most people, whether you like Ovi or you don't, I think we all just need to accept the fact that this is something that's going to happen. And within a matter of time here, he's going to be the all-time greatest record holder here for goal scoring. So it's just the way it is. So on to some other news around the NHL. Lots to talk about today. We got word that Team USA has hired Sharks head coach Hire Warsovsky to be their head coach for the upcoming World Championships here this spring. So obviously the first-year head coach will get a pretty good opportunity to continue his his coaching career and continue getting some valuable experience working with some different players and working on the international stage. So that's a good testament to how they feel things went with the Sharks this year. And obviously, like I said, a great opportunity for him. A bunch of injury updates today. A lot of key players that we're getting updates on that are dealing with stuff now leading into the final home stretch here, the regular season. I know in Ottawa, they were without Brady Tkachuk for the second consecutive game last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They did pull off a win without their captain the first time this season. They've done so, and I believe that was his 4th game missed, and he did not skate today. So there's still questions on whether or not he'll play this weekend. We won't know for sure until tomorrow, but the fact that he didn't skate today does not give us a lot of optimism. Looks like he may miss a little bit more time. St. Louis Blues forward Dylan Holloway, who's having a phenomenal season and especially strong since the Four-Nation break with St. Louis, is going to be out for a little bit. He did get hurt, and he's going to miss at least the next couple of games. The Buffalo Sabres today recalled Noah Ostlund, so he's getting a good opportunity as well. The Habs finally made the Jacob Fowler contract signing official today as well, so that will kick in next year, and he has gone to Laval on an amateur tryout to finish out the regular season here. Jamie Benn, the Dallas Stars captain, also dealing with an injury, is doubtful to play this weekend too. Sasha Barkov with the Panthers, again, likely going to miss a couple more games. Will not likely play this weekend. Is going to miss because they have back-to-back with the Senators and the Red Wings. It's likely he's missing both of those games, and then are hopeful he could return next week, but don't have a firm timeline just yet. Of course, the Oilers suffered another blow last night with Leon Draisaitl, who was, of course, him and McDavid both have been out. Leon's been back for a few games, and then he got hurt again. Innocent enough looking play. It was on the power play. The puck came to the boards. He was kind of just reaching with his stick and a little stick battle, and then something happened, and he went off not feeling too good. So I never really got a clear-cut, definitive answer of what the problem was. But whatever it was, enough to keep him out for a little bit longer. So they're going to be back to being without McDavid and Draisaitl here for a bit of time. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to impact their ability to make the playoffs, but it could impact their standing position, which could impact whether or not they have home ice or not. And if they have to go, I mean, I know they've had great success against the LA Kings the last 3 years in the playoffs, but the Kings' record this year at home is crazy good. If they have to start on the road with the way LA's played this year, this just might be the year LA might be able to pull it off. I think a lot of people are underestimating this year's version of the Los Angeles Kings. A few other updates in Edmonton as well. Trent Frederick getting closer to returning. He was at practice today doing a lot of the drills, so he did look pretty good. So Frederick is getting close. Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota has missed 25 games. He has finally been cleared for contact, and they feel like he could return after a few practices, likely around middle of next week. So, of course, Minnesota is in pretty good spot here for the wild card spot with the St. Louis Blues. I don't think there's a great opportunity for either of them to jump up into the top 3 of the division to take down the Avalanche for the 3rd spot. So they're likely going to be battling each other for like wild card 1, wild card 2. I mean, they're technically not clinched yet, but I think they're both relatively safe in doing so. And getting Kaprizov back would be a massive upgrade here as well. Eric Brandstrom, of course, has bounced around a ton over the past year, ever since he's left Ottawa. Eric Brandstrom is set to leave the NHL and will be signing a multi-year deal to play for the SC Bern over in the Swiss League. So that's, after, like I said, he went through, I think, 3 to 4 teams. Like, he's bounced around a lot. We had a couple of waiver claims there and just hasn't quite panned out. I'm a little surprised, to be honest, because even when he left Ottawa, I know he wasn't what the Senators needed for the role they could give him as a third pair defenseman. They really needed somebody like they have now, Tyler Kleven, to have that size and strength and to play a different style in that role, where he's a smaller, puck-moving, mobile defenseman. I'm surprised, though, that he hasn't been able to catch on with another team and made it work, but he's had chances in a few teams. Like, I know he was in, I think he was with the Avalanche. I think he was with the Canucks, the Sabres. Like, he's bounced around a lot, and I think he's just tired of that and needs a fresh start, so he's heading back to Europe. Another signing today as well. The Nashville Predators today announced they've signed goaltender Magnus Krona. He gets another 1-year, 2-way contract extension. Of course, like I said, the wild card race, not a lot happening today that's going to impact things. Teams like the New York Islanders and the Detroit Red Wings are trying to win just to keep their slim chances alive. They're both in action, of course, tonight, but most of the teams that are going to be more impactful to the race will be back in action tomorrow. Teams like Montreal and Ottawa are both in action, along with the teams like the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets are in to play the Leafs. The Habs are, of course, still at home, or still with the Senators. So some big action tomorrow. The Rangers Devils also play. That's going to be important. Right now in the Eastern Conference, the Sens and Habs are still holding down those spots. Ottawa still has a 5-point lead on Montreal, and then Montreal has a very slim lead with, really, like I said, you get the New York Rangers are the main team that's trying to track them down. And then you get the Blue Jackets right behind them. And then there's the Islanders and the Red Wings that are still technically not out of it, but kind of out of it in my opinion. I don't think either of those teams could catch the Senators at this point. They could catch Montreal if Montreal has a epic collapse down the stretch here, but not looking good. I think the odds are favorable for Ottawa and Montreal to hold those spots into the playoffs, but there's still a few games left really before they're going to be safe. For sure, if they have to get a few more wins to lock those down. In the Western Conference, like I said, the St. Louis Blues, the hottest team in the league, have matched the team record with 11 consecutive wins. Absolute crazy run here. And not only get themselves pretty secure in a playoff spot, but have caught Minnesota as well. Minnesota has to try to win tonight against the Islanders just to tie the Blues now. The Wild could end up being wild card 2 instead of wild card 1. And look at where the Blues were just, even like 4 to 6 weeks ago. It's pretty crazy on this tear that they've been on, being the hottest team in the league here. It's kind of, I've said it a few times in other videos, kind of gives me 2019 vibes. I would not want to play them going into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, hard to say who they're going to end up getting matched with, because we don't know if they're going to end up being wild card 1 or 2. At this rate, I'd probably give them the edge to be wild card 1, which would mean they'd probably play like Vegas. Vegas is most likely winning the Pacific. That's not obviously locked up yet, but that's more likely where things are heading. Of course, the other option is if they end up playing the winner of the Central. I mean, that's probably going to be the Jets, but it could be Dallas too. Like, it's hard to say. Either way, they're one of those teams. Like, all the wildcard teams have been some of the best, strongest teams in hockey in the last 4 to 6 weeks in both conferences. Especially not so much Minnesota, but like St. Louis, Montreal, Ottawa. Like, they've been all really strong in the last couple of months. I don't know that we're going to get out of the playoffs without seeing some upsets this year. It's pretty crazy, but I do think that's certainly a possibility. Speaking of streaks, not only the Blues have a record streak, the Bruins have a streak going the opposite direction. For the first time in over a decade, the Bruins have lost 10 in a row. We know that at the trade deadline, they were starting to fall out of the mix. They were still within reach, though. They were just starting to fall out. They made a bunch of trades. Obviously, completely different team now. They moved Carlo. They moved Brad Marchand. They moved Charlie Coyle. They moved Trent Frederick, who was injured at the time, still injured. Like I said, just coming back. Completely different team. They've gone completely off the rails now and find themselves last place in the Eastern Conference. It's pretty crazy this fall of the Boston Bruins. And then, of course, like I said, as well, we have the Blues on the opposite spectrum here going the other way. Of course, Cale Makar also hit a big milestone here last night, getting goal number 30. So he's the first defenseman to hit 30 goals since Mike Green did it back in 2009. So that's quite a long stretch. Of course, Makar hit, I think it was 28 was his previous career high. And now instead the first D-man in 15 years to hit 30 goals, which is quite an accomplishment. Capitals goaltending as well had some question marks on it. All of a sudden, the Capitals, I know everybody's watching Ovi and things have been going so well with him catching that record here, trying to break it, but overall the team has had some struggles lately, and Logan Thompson certainly has had his fair share of them. Really, ever since he signed that 6-year extension, his play has taken a real fall here. And now the last game against the Carolina Hurricanes, where things got absolutely chaotic and all the fights and everything, that at the end of it, Thompson ended up getting pulled. At least we thought it was getting pulled. He left the game. Most people thought he was getting pulled because the score was lopsided. The team later announced that he had been dealing with an injury. So I don't know if really what the injury is. They didn't really elaborate. Anyways, it's unclear. But Thompson, since he signed his contract extension, he's lost 6 of 15, which isn't terrible, but the Capitals have outscored some of his issues. The biggest problem since January 27th, his save percentage is only .888, and he's allowing over 3 goals per game. So he was arguably in the Vezina Trophy conversation. I know a lot of people were saying, geez, he's from Canada. Why didn't Team Canada pick him for Four Nations? And I really thought that, he was going to prove everybody wrong as to why he gets a 6-year extension. And now this happens immediately. Doesn't mean he can't bounce back. Good goaltender, but it's certainly going through some hardcore struggles. Leads me to wonder, going, not far from the playoff push here, I thought it would have been a given a while back that he would have started the first game of the playoffs. For them, I do wonder now. I honestly do wonder, depending on how things go and whatever this injury is, do they go with Lindgren and start the playoffs? They've recalled Hunter Shepard for the time being. Some offseason speculation. Anthony Duclair, does he have a future with the New York Islanders? I know when we talked about him in the last, I think it was yesterday or the day before, when he announced that he was taking a leave of absence from the team. I know I didn't have his contract info in front of me. I couldn't remember how many years he had signed for. I couldn't remember if they just signed him for a 1-year deal or whatever. But he actually signed a 4-year deal. He's got 3 years left on his contract. $3.5 million. He's having an absolutely horrible season. And as we know, Patrick Waugh was not afraid to rip him and kind of shame him for doing so. So clearly, after taking a leave of absence, he knows Waugh from his days in junior. So it's not like this was, he should know what to expect from his head coach because he's dealt with him before in the past. But, you got to make you wonder if this is going to lead to him looking to move on for a trade. And you have to wonder if the team at this rate, after how mightily he struggled this year, if they would want to anyways. Now, of course, it might be difficult. It might not be possible. I mean, if teams want to look back to his run with the Florida Panthers, for example, some of the best hockey he had played, he had a 3-year contract there and ended up getting some pretty good results. He became a cap victim, went to San Jose, got traded back to the Lightning to finish the season, then signed with the Islanders this year, and things really have just not worked out. He's had some pretty serious injuries as well, dealing with an Achilles injury not long ago too. I've seen some data from the NHL Edge site, like his speed burst that they measure is way down. You could say that his overall speed isn't down a whole lot, but they haven't tracked him skating at that speed nearly as often this year. So you do have to question the effort level. You really do, which is I think what Wall was doing when he really called him out. So is this going to lead to an Anthony Duclair, parting of ways with the New York Islanders? Can they even do it? Would they have to give a sweetener? Is a team willing to look back and say, based on what he had done a couple of years back, are they confident they can get him there, and would they take him on at the current contract? Hard to say. The Islanders have to give a sweetener. Difficult to say, but he's certainly a player that I think we're all going to have to monitor here moving forward. Seattle Kraken, of course, another team to watch. I know that I saw some quotes in an interview from CEO Todd Leiweke indicating that the Kraken, as much as they've had a couple down years now, they're not going to press the panic button, and they're not going to go into a rebuild, which would be kind of funny in a sense because, this is a brand new expansion team that's only got a few years in now, and all of a sudden be rebuilding so young into your history would really be admitting that you really screwed things up from the beginning. And to be honest, I know a lot of people, myself included, were shocked by some of their expansion draft picks. I think they could have done that a whole lot better, setting themselves up much better. They weren't anywhere near the level that Vegas was, and I'm not saying that that was a tough act to follow, mind you, but Vegas was a lot more aggressive making deals, and they certainly did a good job of picking players, and then they had an abundance of good players that they traded some as well for other assets, and Seattle's been nowhere near that. And I know I've seen the article I was reading also had some other analysts kind of, looking over the Seattle stuff, and the big problem is they are lacking at superstar. They've had some high picks, and their high picks so far are working out, but they're not at a level where they're considered a franchise player. Like Matty Beniers come into the league, had rookie of the year, 57 points, had a phenomenal rookie season, looking like he was going to be a real solid, possibly number one, if not number two center, who's going to be a real good two-way guy. Kind of reminded you of his GM, Ronnie Francis, in a sense that he's a responsible guy, both ends of the ice, but very talented offensively and could put up some points. But he's never duplicated that. His numbers are starting to trend more upwards again, but he still has not surpassed his rookie season totals. The last 2 years have been, even down from those numbers. You got a guy like Jared McCann who came in and scored 40 goals, but then he's regressed 2 consecutive years. Jared McCann's numbers went from 40 down to 29, and now he's down to 18 this year with a handful of games left. Like he's probably only going to be lucky to get about 20, 21 if he scores a few more. So, that's why the reason why we heard McCann out there in the rumor mill, so close to the trade deadline. It makes sense, right? Andre Burakovsky's been a big disappointment. Philip Grubauer has not lived up to his end of the bargain with his contract. They did improve offensively this year compared to last. 2 years back, they still are not at that level, but then defensively this year, they took another step back. So they certainly need a variety of things. But the one thing that they don't have is that star player. So I do wonder if we'll see them maybe make a bold move, but it just, based on who runs that organization, it doesn't seem like it's really in their DNA to make that big, bold move. I mean, maybe they'll have a few conversations if they can with some of the top UFAs. Would they try to talk to Mitch Marner if he makes it there? Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do, but I think we're definitely going to see a retool and at least a few veterans be moved, because some of the young players are still trending at least in the right direction and are not players they want to give up on. And I also want to touch on the Toronto Maple Leafs. A couple of articles from dailyfaceoff.com analyzing whether or not realistically they can afford to keep Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and Matty Knies. Now, we know they all need new contracts, and they're all important, and it's fair to say that, because we've heard it before and it's been confirmed by enough sources, that Marner is their top priority. They want to get Marner done, ideally, if they can, so that they know how much they can play around with for other players. Now, Marner is projected to be getting a contract somewhere in the $14 million range. Maybe he takes a little less, I don't know. But I mean, his agent is notorious for pushing players to free agency, to the market, to see what's out there. And you know other teams are going to throw ridiculous amounts of money at him. And he's going to use that as leverage to stay in Toronto. I think his preference would be to stay, but also I think his preference is to get paid as much as possible. So, having said that, if we figure Marner's going to get around 14 or so, that's a big chunk of change. The Leafs right now project to have around $27 million in cap space next year with 16 contracts on the books. So that means that out of 16 players, ideally, you need to have about 22, 23. So you're looking at about 6 to 7 players that need to be signed. These 3 being part of that. You're still going to have another 3 or 4 players besides Marner, Tavares, and Knies. But it's possible that all 3 of these guys could eat up all of their available money, and they wouldn't have any other room to finish rounding out their roster or making improvements to other parts of the team. Like I said, if Marner ends up getting 14 and John Tavares is, like I said, getting 36 plus goals, like he could still maybe hit 40 goals this year. He might have one of his most productive seasons as a Leaf at the end of this contract. So yes, he's not an $11 million guy anymore, and nobody expects him to sign a new contract at that. But based on like AFP Analytics, which is my go-to resource for contracts and predictions that way, he's projected to get about 3 times 8, like a Stamkos type contract that he got last year in free agency. Now, would he maybe take a little bit less to stay in Toronto? Maybe. But let's say that he even takes even 7. Like $7 million is still pretty good value for what he's given you this year. So then that takes 14 for Marner, 7 for Tavares. We're at 21 out of 27 million. The projection on Matty Knies right now, and the number could change depending on how many goals and points he puts up down the stretch here. But he's projected a 6-year deal at $6.5 to $7 million. You wouldn't have enough money. Like you barely would have enough money to sign those 3 guys, and you'd still have like 4 open roster spots. So unless John Tavares is willing to take a bigger haircut and knock a couple extra million off that contract to stay and to give the team a better chance to round out the roster and make it stronger, or if they can convince Matty Knies to take a short-term bridge deal, that projection is around probably 2 times 4. And then he would be up in 2 years, and that means instead of getting him locked up longer for 6.5 or so, he's probably going to end up getting 8, 9, 10 if he continues to improve at the same level he has this year and continues to score at the same pace or higher. So it's going to cost them more long-term, but it could save them a little bit short-term to keep all those guys together if they want to, or do they make a trade? What do they do to improve things? I mean, they've got pretty good value in their goaltending. They've got pretty decent value with a lot of the other, forwards and stuff for the most part. I mean, they got still a very top-heavy structure here. Or is it going to be a Max Domi that they move on from because he hasn't lived up to his contract this year? I think he's been a little bit disappointing. Of course, the playoffs will play a big role here in what they decide as well, because clearly, playoff performance is going to be huge here for all these guys. Could they trade Morgan Riley? Like, they're going to have to do something. As much as they're going to have a big jump in cap, and all these guys technically can be retained, if they get all close to the value that they're projected to get, it's going to leave them no money to do anything else and round out their roster. So let me know what you think. Can they all stay? Or do they have to move some other players? Between Marner and Tavares, are they going to lose one of them? Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. Make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.